All righty. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Scott Parsinen, and I'll be moderating this awesome panel today of folks that are greatly important in the DFW startup ecosystem for entrepreneurs and everybody working on getting their businesses started. And I really appreciate everybody being here today. Thank you all. I'm just going to go around real quick, let everybody introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started, et cetera, and how that led you to where you are doing now. And I know we've only got Jeff, Professor McGee, for a little bit of time today, so I'm going to go ahead and start with him. So Jeff, if you could please introduce yourself and tell us how you got started doing what you do now, both with entrepreneurship and over at UTA.
Sure, Scott, and thank you very much for allowing me to participate in this event. Well, I am Jeff McGee, and I'm an associate professor and a Maverick Entrepreneurship Fellow at the University of Texas at Arlington. And I've been here for 26 years, and I was actually recruited to UTA to become part of the Small Business Management and Entrepreneurship program and help develop it. So that's what I've been doing for the last 26 years. More recently, I've, of course, been teaching and doing research in entrepreneurship, but more excitingly, and I think more germane to our discussion today, is that I've been involved with the MavPitch competition, which is our major business pitch competition for our students across campus.
Outstanding. Thank you very much. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention our title sponsor for GEW, or Global Entrepreneurship Week this year, 2021. Dell Technologies. We really want to thank them for being our title sponsor, as well as a couple of our other participating sponsors, the City of Arlington and the Greater Arlington Chamber of Commerce. And so our next guest today, I would like to introduce Ms. Lauren Brewer and let her introduce herself and tell us how she got started and how she ended up where she is now.
Hi, thanks so much for having me, Scott. I appreciate it. My name is Lauren Brewer. I own and operate Worx Coworking in downtown Arlington, Texas. And I got into coworking as a lot of people who are in coworking have gotten into it because I was in hospitality. So that is kind of a common theme of people who are in co-working. So I was in hospitality. I ran some hotels. I worked at the ballpark in Arlington and did all of their high-end catering. I even ran the Diamond Club for a short period of time. And as a lot of people in that industry, I experienced a thing called burnout. And so I was looking for a career change, and this concept of co-working just kept kind of popping up, and I got pretty interested in it. I started doing some research, and all the cool ones seemed to be in Dallas and Fort Worth, and I was like, well, why isn't there one in Arlington, where I had just moved to with my husband. He's an Arlington guy, and it seemed like there was a need in Arlington at that time. And so we kind of put ourselves out there to see, well, why isn't there one in Arlington? Does there need to be one in Arlington? Can we put one in Arlington? And so we just kind of took it slow and steady. We took some classes at the back and figured, we would give it a try. And 3 years later, this week, we're going to celebrate our third anniversary. So we're happy to have made it through the longest year of everyone's lives, I think, and we're rocking and rolling in Arlington today. So
That's awesome. That's a great journey. I really, you and I and Luke have known each other for a while, and it's always funny. I feel like when we get on these panels every year from time to time, and you keep learning about people, and I've never really, I can't even believe it, never have even asked you what your past was that led you to having union work. So that makes total sense, and you guys are amazing hosts, and you have a great space, and your experience really definitely shows, and the past makes sense on how you've taken that and put that into Union Works. It's a beautiful, beautiful space and a great place to work. So, and last but certainly not least, Mr. Hayden Blackburn is a friend and a mentor and someone I've learned a lot from in the startup world for the last many years. And so, Hayden, could you please introduce yourself
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for having me on the panel. Love joining with Lauren and Jeff, having been connected with UTA and Union Worx over the years. And so current role is Executive Director of Tech Fort Worth, technology entrepreneur support organization that helps those launching and scaling emerging technology companies, mostly high growth ones, and also running a little bit of a program called Cowtown Angels as the director of that one. So those are the main hats that I currently wear. But as Scott, we got connected as past organizers for 1 Million Cups, organized some startup weekends, geek out on all things entrepreneurial and developing resources, because I'm a social entrepreneur by heart, and was involved in launching one out in Lubbock years and years ago, and helped a founder launch that, and fell in love with helping a founder realize their dream and vision. And so came back to Fort Worth, launched a mixed industry incubator under a public and private partnership to kind of fill a gap. It was the same thing, like Lauren, looking around the community and going, what is not here that can be here, and putting it in motion to be an entrepreneur for entrepreneurs, to create those resources that are really needed. Before we jump off on my intro, I did want to say that, no kidding, right before this, I prepped a cup of tea, and the brand has messages on the tea bag, and this one was, every neighbor can be your teacher. And I was like, oh, that's so fitting to this conversation of the social fabric of entrepreneurs.
You know, part of where you were before you were now also had a co-working space, which was interesting, and seeing the dynamic of all of that kind of mixed together, and the different activities, including 1 Million Cups, that happen in spaces, creative spaces, community spaces. And so one of those activities that is, of course, the fun one to talk about is where people get the big old cardboard check and everybody's all happy, and you're talking about the money. And so, you know, that easily leads us back to you, Jeff. And I think that you probably are the most popular guy at UTA when it comes to entrepreneurship and dealing out those checks to our entrepreneurs. How did that contest start? What does that look like? And what do the entrepreneurs have to do to get into that program and get to that point where they get the fun picture with the nice big check?
Yeah, excellent. I'd be happy to share some thoughts, because it's obviously one of my favorite subjects. But the program itself, and it's officially the Maverick Entrepreneurship Program and Fund, and it was generated by a very successful alumni who happens to be extremely generous as well. So he gave the university quite a bit of money, and suggested that we create some type of program to nurture entrepreneurship on campus, primarily for our students. So we got together across campus, primarily in the College of Business and the College of Engineering, and came up with what evolved into the MavPitch competition. And it's, as I mentioned, it's a business pitch competition for our students, but they can be groups of students or individual students. So we can bring in community members. So in fact, some of the teams that have won, one of the team members has to be a student, but we have been able to integrate some of the ideas from people in the business community. And it's a 2-phase program. So the students enter typically in the fall, and we have organized courses that they can take. Excuse me. We have some structured material, structured instruction that we provide them. So we take them through the ideation process. We help them develop their business model, and then they have their initial pitch. And the initial pitch this semester is the first week of December, and we get to give away one of those big checks, or hopefully several of those big checks you referred to earlier. And the winners from phase 1 are then invited to participate, to continue in the program, and then participate in phase 2. So in between phase 1 and phase 2, we provide the students with additional mentoring, some additional guidance, and other types of resources, culminating in one of the programs that Hayden actually runs, which is the Accelerator program, the deep dive, which is just absolutely fantastic. And that's typically held at the beginning of the summer, which is fantastic for us, because the phase 2 competition is another pitch, and that occurs in August. So the students have been working on their pitches over the course of several months. They go through the Accelerator with Hayden, and by the time they're done with that, they're ready to pitch in the phase 2 grand finale for an additional big check. And students can receive up to $40,000 in cash, which to me is absolutely remarkable. So they can achieve up to $15,000 in phase one, and then they can achieve or receive an additional $25,000. And to me, what makes it so unique is it is cash, because we know that there's lots of institutions such as MIT, Harvard, which of course everyone knows, Rice and TCU are a little closer. But our program is cash, because many of those programs offer very generous award packages. But if you read the fine print, it indicates that, yes, there's a cash award component, but the bulk of those awards tend to be in-kind service, which are valuable, don't get me wrong. But the fact that we're able to give our students cash, I think, is just phenomenal, because it definitely provides an incentive, but it also allows them the flexibility to do some pretty cool things and trying to get their businesses launched and off the ground.
Where do you kind of see things going with that once someone does get the big check and has a nice chunk of change? How do you see things kind of evolving from here on out, where somebody would go with that money and how they would expand out into the ecosystem, where they would get help, and what does that look like ideally?
Well, the ideal situation is we would just hand them off to Hayden and let Hayden help them build their business into a substantial enterprise. And I think Hayden has worked, or I know Hayden has worked with several of the MavPitch winners in the past and has done a remarkable job. But I mean, that raises a good point. So the pitch competition, or the program itself, was really something that we've been trying to do for decades, actually, since I've gotten here. So we've had bits and pieces of this type of program, but once we were able to utilize this generous pool of funds, we were able to actually create the MavPitch. And I just want to note that, one of the things that to me is quite exciting, and this is exciting not only for UTA, but I think it's exciting for the greater Arlington community, or for that matter, the greater North Texas community, is that there's a palatable excitement about entrepreneurship on campus now. And I can't help but think that the MavPitch is one of the reasons why, because students are realizing, oh my gosh, my classmate just received, this big check for $25,000. And, we've had some other winners that have received the check, and then they've actually gone and secured additional funding from a variety of sources. In fact, we just had a couple of students that participated in one came and spoke to my entrepreneurship class a couple of weeks ago and explained their success and their growth story. So what we'd like students to do is to get excited about entrepreneurship and then come up with an idea and work on that business model while they're here at UTA, and hopefully get to that, at least that pre-launch stage. And I guess ideally you would hope they could launch the business while they were actually students. But we would like to see this whole process manifest itself in new venture creations. I think that's really the ultimate goal. And I think we have a pretty solid track record of students that have actually created businesses that are generating revenues. Several of them are not only generating revenues, but they're also generating profits. And the money that they receive from the award and the other resources, the help from all of the people that are involved, I think has really contributed to that success. So the ideal situation is that we would get students excited about entrepreneurship, identify a problem that needs a solution. They develop a business model to provide that solution. They work on it with our support. They win, they get the recognition, they get the award money, and then they actually launch the business. And then we try to tie them in or get them involved in the local network. And I hate to use the term, but get them connected to the local entrepreneurial ecosystem so they can find the additional resources that are available. And they're plentiful here, which we're all so fortunate to be so resource rich here in Arlington and DFW. So, we'd like them to get the businesses started, and then, provide them additional mentoring, and if nothing else, make sure that they're well connected within the larger ecosystem, so we can see that they've been successful. They started the business. We have a program at the university called Mavs 100, which is a program where we recognize the fastest growing businesses started by our alumni. I'm happy to say that there were 3, I believe, from this past year that were actually MavPitch winners. And the reason I bring that up is that in an ideal situation, we would have students matriculate through the program, and I'll be able to recognize them at a future Mavs 100 event, to where we can say one of our fastest growing Maverick-owned businesses went through our MavPitch competition. And to me, that would be the truly ideal situation.
Well, that is the perfect way to sum that up, and I appreciate it. And your program, your classes, the way you teach and interact with all the entrepreneurs at UTA is fantastic. It definitely is part of every discussion when we talk about entrepreneurship here in Arlington, and really, really thankful that program exists. Thankful for all you do, and really just want to encourage people to reach out to you, even if they're thinking about going to UTA or at UTA and thinking about going into entrepreneurship. Jeff's a great guy and really a great resource for helping entrepreneurs. So thank you so much for your time today. And I know you've got to get running. And so thank you for being here and all you do for Arlington and for UTA and our entrepreneurs. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, so it was my pleasure. And I'm going to leave you with Venture Ho and, of course, Mav Up, guys. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Well, definitely, I know there are a lot of great, easy segues to give to Hayden, but I am going to ask Lauren to step in here real quick and talk about co-working, because that is probably the least complicated of what we're about to talk about with Hayden. Co-working, I definitely am not a stranger to that myself, and most people will maybe tell you that they understand what co-working is, but I really want to hear that from you and what your definition of co-working is, and explaining to people that are out there that it's more about just trying to get you out of your house and out of your pajamas and to a place where you can work. So I'll turn it over to you, and let me tell you, and let me ask you a little bit more about what is co-working. What are the benefits of that, and how is it different from just like the spaces like Regis or whatever, where you just rent an office?
Right. So yes. So what is co-working? To me, co-working is working with a diverse group of people who all work in the same space, not for the same company. And to me, what a place like Regis does is they rent suites, and co-working is about a community, right? So our goal is always to create connections and to create a community. So if I have a member that's a graphic designer, I want him to find business and to find like-minded people to bounce ideas off of, to find other people to work with. So not only does he find business, because hopefully there's another accountant that's going to move in that is going to want to redo their logo, and hey, there's a graphic designer that works 2 doors down who can help you with that new logo. But now that graphic designer's like, you know what? I'm tired of doing my books. Can the accountant help me with that? Can the tax guy help me with that? So it's all about creating a community where people who work for themselves or work for small businesses can help each other do better, easier, it all under one roof. So to me, that's what co-working is all about, is everyone coming together with the same goal of helping each other thrive and create a community.
Yeah, absolutely. It is definitely, the definition of community at work, I think, is so important. And you guys do a great job, and you have a very welcoming space, and conference rooms, and you're in, of course, Urban Union, which there's a little bit of everything within walking distance. It's a very walkable community and environment. Yeah. It's safe, and it's fun. So, you can blow off steam, get food, and meet up with other people on lots of different patios and porches up and down Front Street there in Arlington.
Definitely.
And so
Yeah.
you guys are really, really primely located, also only within a mile. I've walked it before from AT&T Stadium, so people that are coming into town can come in and pop over. How does that work? Like if somebody does come in for a game, maybe they're still got some work to do, they got in really early, they just want to pop in, do they just get a pass or something?
Yeah. So we have day passes. So that happens a little bit, not as often as I thought it would. But yeah, that happens. We have day passes. It's $20 a day. You can pop in, sit down. It feels kind of like working at a Starbucks or a cafe. You get free coffee, but you have a clean, nice place to sit. You know you're going to have a chair. You can leave your bag when you run to the restroom or run across the street to grab a taco, and your bag's going to be there when you come back to it. Like you don't have to worry about it going missing. So yeah, there's definitely some perks as opposed to like going to a cafe or a Starbucks or something like that, where it's very noisy. You don't know if there's going to be a chair for you, and you don't know, well, what do I do if I do have to go to the restroom? Do I pack up my stuff and then hope and pray that there's still a seat for me when I am done in the restroom, or whatever the situation? So for $20 a day, I mean, I think that's a hell of a deal, because I mean, coffee is included. So
and we're going to come back to that, because there is a time where after someone is going through the startup process and they need a home after they've gotten their business up and running. I want to talk about that in a minute. But in between starting and home, there's a whole lot that goes on. And so as Jeff said, which was a great segue to Hayden, I do want to follow up on that, because that you go through that process, and it's not all just the young bucks at UTA. You do have a lot of people that come that decide they're done with their main gig, and they've started a side hustle, and it's turned to something a little bit more serious, and they're going to plug in either somewhere going to UTA or maybe even not going to UTA, and they end up in Hayden's doorstep. Hayden, what does that look like when someone comes to you and says, I'm tired of the cube farm and I've got this side hustle I've been working on and I need help because I can't do this myself?
Well, you just touched on two major things that we always look at any individual. That's a lifetime learner. I don't know what I don't know, and I need help. And I know that I don't want to do it alone. So whether it's a co-working space, or we'll get into the definitions and wide spectrum of like accelerators and incubators, it's looking for that community. So I love that Lauren brought that up, and kind of they don't feel like they're on an island, because connecting with other founders that have taken the jump off the cliff and building the plane on the way down, it's like, hey, you're just a couple of steps ahead of me. I know it's safe to still keep going down this path because you've been able to achieve that. So whether you want to find a menu of things, and for us at TechFW, we're not looking to be the exclusive home or the forever home for anybody. It is, what are your needs? How does that line up with the ecosystem of programs, resources, partnerships, which, big shout out, we're a proud partner with UTA and the new Center for Entrepreneurship and Economic Innovation to bring that program, Deep Dive and Piece, to the MavPitch competition and working with the students. And so that is a fun one during the year, but it's all about like that stickiness. Like what keeps an entrepreneur sticky to your environment and your culture, and kind of what is activated for them. Now, I'm never going to try to compete with Lauren as far as hosting the best parties, because it's just going to hire that out and pay for those types of things. But we address the individual. So that entrepreneur is always going to be an entrepreneur. Once you identify with like, I'm willing to take this risk, even if it's you fail on that first one, which statistics usually show that's not going to be the home run, not necessarily that it doesn't fail or anything like that, but you're probably just going to sharpen your lens. Okay, now I know a little bit more, and I've learned what to look out for, and maybe don't skip those steps. And I'm going to then find another problem that I want to solve a solution for. But there's a lot of unknowns. And so having somebody, we talk about our organization having the kind of brand persona of a sage. somebody that can help guide them and connect and share that knowledge along that journey and ask the right questions along the way. And so, Scott, I don't know if you wanted to get into, I'm trying to talk about us without using the vernacular of this breakdown of accelerator and incubator. So I can definitely start on some just thoughts around there.
That's perfect, because I mean, that's really, I think that's what's going to attract people to this session, and seeing the title of it being, what is the difference between co-working, an incubator, an accelerator, what's a pitch competition? Because, you know, like all of us at some point in time, we turned on the TV and there was this thing called Shark Tank, and everybody thinks that Shark Tank is like, if I'm going to start my company and I'm going to go ask for money, I'm going to be sitting in front of people like that. And that couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, that is definitely Hollywood at its finest, making something that's an all-day filmed process shrunk down into that little time that you get to watch it on TV. And they got multiple entrepreneurs that they're rolling through there. But, you know, what you do with Cowtown Angels, and being part of that huge network, it's all part of the ecosystem of that development. And I really want people to understand what that looks like from the beginning to the end. Like, so you've got, I'm going to start my company, but, you know, I'm scared to death because I heard that there's, you know, this stat that's out there that's like 80% of startups fail, and if I don't plug in somewhere, then I don't have a fighting chance very much. So what does that program look like? Let's start there first, of like why it's called incubation, just like a baby, and you know, taking them from that stage.
Yeah, so the two main like words to really differentiate is accelerator and incubator, and it's a category of service provider and entrepreneur support organizations that do this. There's variations on this. So for us, we do run an accelerator program called Think Lab, 12-week program, very curated curriculum that they're going through, coaching and mentoring along that journey to ultimately go through a lot of curriculum to ultimately decide, do I proceed with what I have right now in this plan that I've developed? Do I pivot based on what I've learned through customers in the market, or do I shelve this because of something that is outside of my control and the marketplace needs to catch up before I launch it, for it to be fully utilized and adopted in that space? And so this this investment in the self and the investment into the foundations of that company are a key area. Whether you're doing that by yourself or in an accelerator like a cohort model, the accelerator is working on kind of accelerating that speed to discovery to figure out, this has got legs, this has got opportunity. People will actually pull out a pocketbook and pay for the thing I have come up with an idea to solve for their problem, and not just a nice to have type of thing. But there's variations on the theme of accelerator. Many are 3 to 4 months. So that's kind of a staple in the industry of like, okay, short window of time, heavy coaching, heavy mentoring, really working through that. But some will do a seed investment. So they're titled seed accelerator. And that'll be terms that are variations across all of these, but it'll be a set amount for a set equity piece into the company for acceptance into the cohort for that accelerator. Many of the seed accelerators will also be focused on industries or clusters that would play to the strengths of their network and everything, because so much of it is also the connection to the alumni and the mentors and the network that comes from all the players that are in support of entrepreneurs. These types of entrepreneur support organizations can be hubs to gather all of those players together to feed and help support the entrepreneurs. I'm totally stealing the language from Brad Feld and the others that have written on this subject as far as the position of the entrepreneur, the leaders, and everybody else is feeding that and the players that are involved. So we're here to support and allow that entrepreneur on their journey to grow and scale. So from there, an accelerator, I mean, that could come at different stages. It could be, for us, it's at the idea stage. For others, it could be like, hey, I've got a little bit of validation and now I want to accelerate and really focus on my go-to-market strategy and my sales model and marketing plans and my production and supply chain and everything else. But what we do from our programming is we do that incubation. Incubation started in the 50s up in New York, and kind of a mixed industry incubator got its start, giant environment to co-locate companies that are in that nascent early stage, figuring out, do I have a scalable business? And having a support structure around them that can help address some of those big gaps. Just like Lauren pointed to a co-working's power of going, hey, member to member connection. I don't love finances and I need somebody to help me on my finances that absolutely loves it because they can do it 5 times faster than myself as an entrepreneur. That kind of connectivity also happens in incubation programs and accelerator programs, is the assessment of the individual and what their areas of growth look like and where to focus that, and really bring in resources that they wouldn't otherwise have known about or had as easy of a connection to hopefully increase the likelihood of success. No program can guarantee any success for an individual. For us, we're focused on the individual. They have to build their company. I can't build the company for you. Then I'm just a co-founder at that point. I'm a coach. And so I want to help expose the opportunities and get you connected to resources that can help, and trusted voices and trusted peers in that. Because founder to founder connection point is very important no matter what program you're in or what environment you're in. For us, we're not a real estate play. So we got 41 clients. It's very, very diverse. I mean, 51% of our clients right now have women on the leadership team. 33% have minorities on the leadership team. We joke that we work with advanced degree individuals. There's lots of masters and PhDs in the tech space as far as what they're developing. And so there's a wide generational spread as well. I mean, it's fascinating looking at that, the diversity that comes through that. But you're finding the connection to people that are willing to take that risk in any of these programs, and you don't have to be the lone wolf to be able to do it.
So, well, thank you for that. That's a great explanation, and I know that there's just that's a huge box to unpack. But like in a call like this or session like this, where, like, you brought up real estate, so let's talk about that. What happens if, like, I'm an Arlington person and I'm really interested in real estate and the big flux that's about to change with a lot of regentrification of areas, and I want to be here. Can I work in Lauren's space but still be in your program? How does a co-working situation work and marry up with kind of like being under the wing of a program like yours?
Yeah, so we do have the option of people leasing space and renting that for operations, but it's not a requirement of the program. So the terms are very clear. Like, we don't take equity, and you can be anywhere in North Texas. I mean, we have clients that are in co-working spaces right now. It's no offense to us. We want to encourage that there's somewhere that can really amplify their ability to work and make it more productive. So distraction free or limiting distractions, but also amplifying the connectivity, because we know what our area of focus is. We're not trying to be the end all be all for them along that journey. So I do encourage people to find kind of real estate that can be a place that can help them in their operations and for their journey to scale, because the attractiveness of like co-working spaces is, gosh, I don't have to start with a dedicated desk. I can kind of grow. I can, let me just go and do some day passes and get a feel for it and feel the energy in that space and feel and test it out and test drive. And they're like, well, maybe I don't start with a dedicated office, but I do want a dedicated desk so I can have a dependable place, because that makes me feel really good about knowing that I know exactly where I'm going to set up. And then I'm like, oh, well, I've got traction in my operations, and gosh, I'm on the phone a bunch. I should probably get one of those private offices and kind of escalate and grow. It's an adaptable environment for entrepreneurs as they kind of minimize overhead, but get the big bang for the buck of being connected around people that speak the same language.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that, we're kind of this weird 3-sibling area in the Metroplex, and we're kind of the youngest sibling here in Arlington when it comes to the whole startup scene. And we learn from our siblings to the west and the east, and so we're growing, but we also, like we said at the beginning, have this weird kind of cart before the horse. Sometimes we got this really cool contest where you can get a whole lot of money, but then it's kind of disjointed of like the pathway. So people get money, but they don't know what to do with it or where to go. And so we're trying to like build this pathway in an ecosystem so that everyone knows kind of where to go, where to start. If I'm a student, then I go to the center at UTA, and that's my home, and I can get what resources there, and I have my family there. If I'm not quite at UTA yet, or I've already graduated and I'm not there, I can go to Lawrence, and I can go to UnionWorks, and I can plug in, and I can, you know, find some stage of where I am. I just need a place to work, to be more productive, or like you said, get the office. Lauren, what's your mix kind of going on right now? What do you see? I know Arlington, like I said in the beginning, hasn't really grasped kind of like the whole co-working thing, right? They just keep thinking co-working is, you know, rent a suite, and it's so much more than that. So what do you see right now in Arlington as your mix of people that walk in off the street? Are they coming in asking right for the office, or are they your fledglings that you're kind of like, you know, growing them up through your system?
I would say since COVID, 100% is offices. Like, I very rarely get people that are interested in open co-working or even dedicated desk right now. Our offices are completely full, and they have been for yeah, thanks, Hayden. It was a struggle, but we're finally there. Yeah, our offices have been completely full for several months now. My desk, I have 3 vacant desks, and then I have plenty of room for more open co-working, and I would love to see that kind of revitalized. But that was the first thing I lost when COVID hit, and it's been the slowest to come back. And I don't know. I don't know if that will ever come back like it once did. I think people want their own space now more than ever. Um, so I don't know, but that's what I see right now in Arlington. I think that's the trend right now in co-working, is for people to just kind of want their own area and their own
Yeah.
space.
Now you
Makes
did bring up,
sense.
yeah, you did bring up the pandemic. I was totally going to try to go through a whole session and not even
Sorry.
touch. No, you're good. It's perfect segue because that is a market that, you know, things have changed now. And I know that right after, you know, we've kind of gone in these ups and downs with the pandemic, but one of the ones that when the school year started, I was proud of you guys and trying to hit the, you know, the moms or the dads that are the ones dropping off the kids at school. And then, you know, instead of going back home and where you're not so productive, is to just keep on going from the drop off line and head to your place. And, you know,
Yeah.
I've been there many times, and it's clean, and, you know, it's a great environment where you don't have to, it's open, so you don't have to worry. You know, everybody has their level of comfort of being around other people. And right now, I mean, the weather could not be any better. Like, head outside if you want to get out there and work outside and do some phone calls and stuff. It's a great space for that. So, you know, I do want to take time on this session to encourage people to get back out and plug in. I mean, it's time for that. As an entrepreneur, you know, I know that you see people grow. I mean, can you speak a little bit more about that? Have you seen people kind of come back out a little bit more, and then they're kind of growing back into it, and then they're, you know, getting back to where it used to be, to the good old days?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I feel like my members are really good at like keeping 6 feet. Like, we have all, that's our norm now. Like, we don't touch, we don't hug, we don't even really like handshake or high five, so we're good at like not touching. But when people hear people in the kitchen now, like getting coffee or whatever, we do come out and like communicate and talk again. And that is just, it's so refreshing, and it's so good. And honestly, like, not to be like a little bit of a want, but it's just so good for your mental health. And there's so many adults out there who need to talk to other adults. There's just so many people who maybe that are single parents or work at home in one room little places and drop their kids off, and maybe they don't see another human. And that is just not the way we're meant to live. So even if you just get out of your house for 2 days and you go and you communicate with someone face to face in real life for just 2 days out of the week, you will be amazed what it does for your mental health and your clarity, and honestly, your production too, because all of my members come tell me they get twice as much work done in half the time when they leave their home, they leave their laundry, they leave their adorable puppy, who I hate to leave too. I mean, I'm obsessed with my dog, but he is a whipping and I can't get anything done with him either. But when I leave those things, I leave the dishes, I leave my home, I come to UnionWorks. When I walk in the door, I know I'm just here to work. I get my work, you get your work done, and then you move on with the rest of your day. So if you work for yourself and you don't necessarily have strict hours, come knock your work out and then go back home and move on with the rest of your life. You don't have to be here for 12 hours, 8 hours, whatever. Come here for 3 or 4 hours and then move on with your life.
Yeah, amen to that. That's absolutely right. Well, I'm glad you guys have that mentality. It's definitely, you feel it when you're there, and I just can't encourage people enough to get out and go to a space like UnionWorks and just plug back in again. But I know that there are a lot of people that are out there, to shift it back to a little bit of what Hayden's doing, and even people that are probably at Lauren's place now are sitting in their office at some point going, I need money. I need more money. How do I grow this thing? Okay, they told me to go out and get out of my pajamas, go to some place to work. I'm working, I'm grinding it during the day, but I've plateaued. Like, where, Hayden, do you find somebody like that and say, okay, now you've got a product, you're making some money, that's awesome. You're covering your bills, but they want to scale. They want to go to the next level. What does that look like? What program suits them better? What term does that fit in at your place?
Well, I would say embrace the plateau. Really, really embrace and love it, because everybody hits that. You practice, you keep being disciplined on that, and then boom, you see that growth down. But Lauren, I love that. It's like co-working as a self-care investment, like not just a business expense. It's like, this is part of my self-care strategy and plan. For sure. I love that idea. Those in the I'm going to launch a high growth company, whether that be technology or non-tech based, talent and capital. Those are two big pieces that all of them are facing. And so capital, which we have another session on, and in kind of the funding pathways and opportunities on that. So definitely plug in that one for checking that out, that session, as we deep dive on non-dilutive and dilutive sources. And a couple of other ones is, so I was writing some things and thinking about this, is just like, so competitions can be one of those. And some competitions like MavPitch, it could be students in an idea stage. You see universities having these pathways. You also have competitions from like A&M, the Texas New Venture competition. They could be those that are started in pitching that idea. Or some of the banks launch competitions and do pitch competitions and have a pot of gold and wins of 50,000 or something like that. But it's all at a stage of the company. It's a window of time that you're focusing on going to these competitions to get a little bit of non-dilutive capital, to also get some validation that you can articulate the value proposition of this company, everything like that. But as a founder, you have to be honest and go, okay, I am past that stage. Those are now a distraction for me. And so maybe I want to not pursue those anymore. And I'm looking at other, because the best kind of funding is that you can get profit from selling to customers. So what's the most efficient way to get profit? But you could be looking at different phases of different funding mechanisms for the whole journey, whether that be an accelerator, an incubator, or any, you're working in a co-working space, you're looking, it just depends on what you're looking at as far as debt or equity investments and everything else. It's at any stage. But for any stage or any source, they're looking at, whether it's a competition or angel investor or banker, how have you de-risked the investment? What are the things that are the milestones that I have reached that de-risk this investment? There's common ones for common like business models and industries, but it's going to be unique for yours. It's like, well, if I'm presenting to raise some capital, I'm all by myself and I have no other team members, that may be a turnoff to like all capital sources. They may be like, well, you're kind of just alone by yourself. Like, let's get you promoted and get in a team and maybe some advisors and kind of filling in some gaps on that team, because we, as entrepreneurs, we wear every hat. We just don't want to wear every hat forever. You need to practice the delegation part. And so those types of pathways and those conversations, you're looking at network access, network connection. And I think any of these types of programs can be that. But the way to find out the power of that network is to talk to the current clients or current members or tenants or anything like that, and talk to alumni of those programs. What worked for them to reach their goals? What was the network connections that they were able to be introduced to that sped up the connection for them, whether it be human capital, financial capital, resources for the hard side of things, the soft side of things, just the IP, the law, the accounting, whatever it be from a service and support scenario. Do your due diligence. As you look at these types of programs and spaces and opportunities, you want to kind of go, well, I want to research this stuff, but I also want to honestly assess what are my needs. What am I being honest about my own needs as far as my gaps, my weaknesses, what my strengths are, and how to utilize those, and have some advisors and friends or family members that are real honest with you and be like, hey, I've made it this far in the development. I'm thinking of applying to this program or this competition. Do you think it's the right thing to do, to put my energy in? Because so much of this is energy deployment for that return on investment as a founder of like, well, I'm hoping for a great return on any investment I make of my time, energy, and resources. And that's a crazy space, like raising capital from angel investors. I always now coach entrepreneurs, like, build a budget. Before you start this, know what time, what capital I'm willing to raise, what amount of capital, because it's going to take longer, twice, 3 times as long as you hope, and cost you more. Now, one of the benefits from the pandemic is that more angel groups are now open. I know ours is, and I know other angel groups, to doing virtual pitches and not always having to travel to. So that kind of speeds up the connectivity between the entrepreneur and the investor, and kind of testing the waters and seeing if it is a fit before progressing the relationship. Because whether it's finding a co-founder in a shared co-working space or networking event, or finding an investor, you're kind of just, entrepreneurs have to get really good at dating people that they're recruiting in and looking to do business with.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you really, hit the nail on the head about, it's all about connecting, and it's your network, it's your support system, people that are helping you out, all the different aspects of your growth as an entrepreneur and the growth of your company. In my case, unfortunately, even the death of your company. It really is. It is about having people to be there with you through the ride, and to help you deal with all of the different curveballs and fireballs that are thrown your way as an entrepreneur. And that's what this whole week of Global Entrepreneurship Week is about, learning a whole lot, gaining a lot of knowledge, and networking and plugging into people that can help be there for you. And like I said, and you've been a part of some discussions, Hayden, that we have had in that kind of 3-sibling relationship where, the younger one, the older one's got in the car and already dating, and the younger one's like, I want to date and I want to have a driver's license. And big brother, big sister's like, your time is coming. Just you need to work. You got to grow up a little bit. You got to understand some things. Got to go through driver's ed. You can't just jump in the wheel and start driving. And so I've really appreciated those types of conversations that we've had. That it is great that you aspire in Arlington to want to do a lot of great things, but there is a process that is a process to go through to learn and plug into the network and gain that knowledge, to make sure, just like a business, that if you do want to do an angel network, or you do want to have pitch competitions elsewhere, like at co-working spaces or things like that, that you're doing it the right way and ensuring success for our entrepreneurs. And so I really appreciate that aspect of all we've talked about with you over time in Arlington, and your partnership with UTA has just been really valuable and appreciated a lot. Lauren, and I'm going to kind of let you give your closing thoughts here on what does that look like for you at UnionWorks right now and the community as a whole? Like there is a slower adoption period, and the pandemic certainly did not help. So, but getting people back out, obviously, and understanding what that means. What does that look to you to kind of see the whole co-working vibe and ecosystem thrive to where you're saying, okay, we're doing well and we're healthy and people get co-working? What does that look like to you?
Wow, that's a loaded question, Scott. For us, like as far as like partnering with UTA, we haven't done that a lot. I thought in the beginning when we first opened, we would be doing a lot more of that. And there hasn't been a lot of that. And I wish there would be. We're totally open to it. We would love it. We would love if more groups and clubs had meetings here and took advantage of our space. We've always been open to that. We host a lot of like nonprofits in Arlington. Like the Junior League is one of our regulars. Leadership Arlington is one of our regulars. So that's one way that we reach out to the community and stay involved in the community. But, UTA, I think we need to find a better way to stay more involved there. It's probably partially our fault for not kind of figuring out that way. But when you open a business, sometimes you just get busy running that business and things fall to the wayside. So that's one thing that I do feel like we failed on that I would like to kind of rectify. But another thing that I do wish that I would like to see is from Arlington is from like the economic and development side is I would love for them to sponsor an office and put like a rising star in that office and give them an office for a year and let them, see what they can do with that. If they have a place to launch their business from and free office space for a year and free meetings that come with that, what could a young person do with that? So I think that would be a really cool partnership that we could do with like the economic development side of Arlington. That's something that I've thought about for quite some time. I think that would be really cool. I'm very interested in doing something like that. But yeah, I think just the more people that know about co-working, the better for us. Does that answer your question, Scott?
Absolutely. And I definitely don't speak for UTA, but as a diehard alum in the discussions I've had, they see this whole ecosystem, like we were talking about a pathway, so there's sometimes people that are older that come back and they're like coming to a co-working space and then they end up going to UTA. And then after they graduate, they got to have a home again, right? So they come back. So it's this whole pathway and process that I know UTA, like Arlington, the city or the chamber, is all looking, and stuff that I've been working on mapping that out. What are the different combinations of that? And I know co-working is a huge portion of that. We need more co-working spaces there, period. And we need a lot of different themed co-working spaces where they're really good at certain things, where they're, like Hayden said, it's a real estate community or it's a tech community there, and where to go, even if they're owned by the same people, but that those communities are there. It's super important, I think, for everybody in our ecosystem to work together, and I think that is definitely the goal. You were talking about what that looks like as far as the city. Any co-working space that I've been at that's been a thriving co-working space has had an entrepreneur in residence program, and it's fantastic to have someone there, no matter what stage they're at, for other people to come in and be able to watch somebody go through it, commiserate, vent, hear their venting, understand, is really valuable. I can't agree more with you. And I know Hayden threw the thumbs up there that, having an entrepreneur in the building that is somebody, whether they're in initial stages and in the middle of a program, or they've gone through it and can share and give back. Mentoring is a huge part. I would love to see mentors use your space to meet up instead of going to a coffee shop or whatever, to start getting in the habit that is the place where mentors go and connect and can help each other out. And you should have multiple mentors. So even if you're a student at UTA and you're going to the new center, which I know that they've been spending so much time and effort waiting, not only to get back to life after the pandemic, because it's been really tough for institutions, but to get their new facility all finished out, and that home for the students, that they would have yet another space to go to and meet up with mentors along the way, because there's a lot of great ones in Arlington and in our area. So I hope everybody will take advantage of that. I think all of the things that you're hoping for are going to happen. Much like starting a business, nothing happens as fast as you really want it to happen. So I'm glad that you guys have survived this. It's been a heck of a run, and you guys have done a great job. I'm so thankful. You are most deserved in winning your Women Business of the Year at the Chamber, and were recognized by some fantastic entrepreneurs. I was blessed to be a part of fooling you and setting up a surprise. So that was totally cool. I'm sorry that you thought I was wasting your time until the party arrived, but that was a good day, and I enjoyed seeing the smile on your face, and you have definitely earned that.
Well, now, but every time you email me, I'm wondering if you're tricking me somehow.
Yeah. So no surprise on this. This is actually why I wanted you to be on today. So thank you very much for being with us today. I really appreciate it. Hayden, I'm going to throw that same question to you. You've been around this for a while from different angles. How do you see Arlington growing, developing into what it's going to become? What does that look like? What's the path you're hoping for?
Well, I know we're getting real close on time, and so just quick thoughts. I mean, it's this long vision, 20 years out, 15, 20 years out, that you're looking towards, and those small wins that start to build on. But it takes champions. So the Laurens of Arlington, you kind of really empower, and you kind of say, they're ones that would be the early adopter into building these types of spaces. How do we partner and make sure that these things show a pathway forward? Because success breeds more success. Those things leads to more, and then you just have this groundswell. It always takes more work and a whole lot of love from those champions to get that stuff moving forward, whatever new area. And we have it anywhere. You look at any community, it's all about there's gaps that are very visible, or you got to be in the know to kind of really understand the gap that's present in there to look at the data. But every community is always looking, or should be looking at, always kind of adding in and building on top of the success that's already been there. But it takes a lot of that commitment and patience to say, we're in it for the long haul. This is a long game, but there's a lot of short game stuff that you start to play that can be low risk, that can be validating to then do it. But as you know, there's a lot of noise out there. So just like Lauren said, finding out about the resources that are available takes a lot of coordinated effort from multiple parties and multiple players to just say, okay, here is some key central messaging for this stage of the community to put it on the radar of those entrepreneurs to create some more sticky environment in all of Arlington, and the environments that really promote the culture and values that are shared across the community.
Amen. Well, thank you. You said it best. I'm blessed to be on this session, Zoom with you guys today with some of the greatest champions I know in our community. I really appreciate it. Jeff, Hayden, Lauren, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing. Please, everybody, I encourage you to plug into these folks and their organizations and what they do. All great people, all have, a great passion in their heart for entrepreneurs. And I hope that you've enjoyed this session today. And again, thanks to all of our sponsors. Please go watch as many sessions as you can during Global Entrepreneurship Week. It's a fantastic opportunity to learn and to network. Thanks again, and I really appreciate it. Have a great one.